Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be doing my August wrap up. I am so excited to bring you guys this wrap up because I feel like I had such a good reading month. Now, I did not give anything 5-star, which may make you think, well, how could it be a good reading month if you didn't give anything 5 stars? I've just read some stuff that has been on my TBR for a while. So I finished some duologies. I finished some books that have been on my shelves for a while. I read some library books, which is weird for me. I am continuing DNFing things that I'm not enjoying, which is really great. So it's just like, I feel like it was just a good vibes month. And I feel like I didn't have anything that I absolutely hated. Oh no, wait, I did have one. I just feel like it was a really good conglomeration of things and like different genres, and I just had a really fun reading this month. And I feel like what helped that is I'm starting to feel a little bit better. Like, I'm not 100% good, but this month was significantly better health-wise than last month was, which was really exciting. And I also got a Kindle. How it has lessons in chemistry on the phone. That's what I find funny when you have the Kindle off, it has like ads. But I got a Kindle Paperwhite. I'm really excited. This has definitely helped me reading. It's actually helping me get through Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I just started that. That is my first read of September and I'm loving it so far. So I'm just really excited. And this has been like amazing. This has been amazing because if I just don't feel like holding a book, like, it's great. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the books. We're going to talk about the DNFs first, as usual. I have 3 DNFs to talk to you guys about. So for the Magical Readathon, which I haven't really talked about, but we're going to talk about a little bit in this, because when I do readathons, Summerween I feel like is the only one I like to make TBRs for, and just Halloween related ones. But other readathons, I just take them at my own pace, which means doing them over a couple of months. I think I did pretty well. So we're going to talk about a little bit of the books for Magical Readathon. But first of all, one of the first books that I DNF'd that I tried to read for the Magical Readathon, I needed to read a manga/graphic novel. So I picked up The Girl from the Sea. And I DNF'd this about halfway through. I was so bored. I felt like this would have done better as a shorter graphic novel. It felt really long. And the main character just kind of frustrated me because she was the definition of acts the way that her friends want her to act, and her friends are horrible, at least that I've seen so far, like from the book. But I just didn't like it. Following our main character, who is a girl who lives in this like small coastal town, and she meets a mermaid kind of thing. I don't know exactly she turns into a seal. We're just gonna call her a mermaid. But she turns into like a seal, and she can be human like so many times a year, like 1 time a year or something like that. And they start kind of a relationship, but our main character, nobody knows that she likes girls, so she's afraid to talk to anybody about it, so she kind of hides it. And it's just, I don't know, I feel like stories like that can be cute. Like Heartstopper does a similar trope kind of thing where Nick isn't out, so he's kind of hiding his relationship, but it works in that. I don't know, something about it did not work in this one, and I didn't like it. I just didn't like it. I know a lot of people like this one, but I DNF'd it mostly just because it was boring and I just wasn't vibing with the characters. And then the other 2 DNFs that I have for you are 2 arcs. I have The Library of Shadows, which I thought was going to be a 5-star read. This is following our main character who just started school at this prestigious academy kind of thing. It's like it only takes juniors and seniors of high school. Her dad had previously gone to the school, and she meets a boy who's attractive and a bad boy, and it turns out he's a ghost, and they have to find this book and she has to help him, and etc. I didn't like the writing. I thought it was really choppy. I also thought it was super cringy. So I just was like, I don't have time to read this, and it at most would be a 3 based on how I felt over the first like 100 pages. And then after that, I tried to read the new anthology that's coming out. It's a dark academia anthology. Olivia Blake has a story in there. ML Rio has a story in there. So I was so excited. It's called In These Hallowed Halls. I got through 4 stories, and I say I got through. I gave the first story a 2, and I DNF'd the next 3, including Olivia Blake's. So I was just like, this is awful. And some of them don't even feel like dark academia, like what I would expect from a dark academia anthology. So I did not like it. I feel like the authors were trying to be like out of the box for dark academia, and it just in this case, he should have just kind of stayed in the box. I think it would have been okay to not like branch out as much as they did. So I just didn't like that one. So that was all 3 that I DNF'd. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the Kindle versions or the online versions, because I don't physically have them. So we're going to talk about them so I don't forget about them. Oh, and first of all, how many books that I read this month, because I don't count my DNFs. I read 11 books, which for me is amazing, and some of them are pretty chunky, so I am so excited about that. That's probably as much as I could ask of myself to read. That is so many books. I felt like I was constantly reading this month, so very, very happy about it. So first online Kindle version that I read was Holly Horror. This is also part of the ARCs that I was reading from NetGalley. This one was a fun one. I give it a 3.75. It was just fun. Like that's all I can say about it. Oh, I kind of like messed myself up because I didn't realize it was part of a series, even though it was literally called Holly Horror #1. But yeah, and it left off on a huge cliffhanger. A huge cliffhanger. So I give this one a 3.75. We're following our main character who has just moved back to the town where her mother had grown up. I'm trying to make sure I'm not like mixing up stories. Yeah, okay, because the house is owned by the family, but the only family member left in town won't live in it. So now this family, our main character, her mom and her brother are moving in due to circumstances that are going on. And you find out that our main character is now living in the same room that a girl went missing in like 40 years previously. It was her mom's cousin, I think, something like that. Weird stuff starts happening. It is a paranormal young adult horror, so ghosties, haunted house kind of vibes going on, and small town Halloween-y vibes. So I feel like this is a really good one to read for Halloween. This one's coming out in September, so I would definitely pick that one up if you want a young adult horror, quick, fast-paced, fall type vibes book. The next one that I read also for my ARC thing that's going on, I was gonna say ARC video, but I don't know if that's coming out because I just DNF'd another one from that list, so it's like 90% DNFs. But I read Borrow a Boyfriend Club, which is really cute. I thought this was gonna be really cheesy, and it is cheesy, but like in the best way. This is following our main character who is trans, and he had to transfer out of his old school because they were using his dead name. They were just being absolutely horrible. They're not acknowledging who he is and just stuck in the past, and it was just a really bad experience for him. So he moves to this new school, and it happens to be like the prestigious, expensive preppy school. And he decides that he doesn't want what happened at his last school to happen again. So he decides that he needs to be in the manliest club because apparently if you're a man, you have to be super manly. So he decides to join the like muscle, I don't even know what it was called, but it was like Lamborghini and something club, and it turns out to be actually a front for a Borrow a Boyfriend club, and he has to prove to the club that he is boyfriend material, and he basically has to romance the club's president, who is the cute bad boy kind of guy, and fake date him basically. It's cute, but it also gets into like the difficult, hard topics of what trans people deal with. And it's an emotional ride sometimes, like, because you deal with his parents, you deal with his friends, and his like own emotional turmoil, because you're not only dealing with him being a trans teenager, you're just dealing with him being a teenager in general. And being in the mind of a teenager is horrifying. I remember what it was like. It was terrible. So you get a little bit of that paranoia of being a teenager, that everyone's out to get you, and it's just the vibes are paranoia, but it's also cute at the same time. So I think this is a really fun one if you just want a very quick young adult romance. Moving on to the books that I have physically with me. It doesn't mean that I read them physically, it just means that I have them physically. So this is in no particular order, it's just what the stack is in. I think it's basically backwards order of how I read it, but I don't know. So I don't think about these things. So first off, we have one of my most anticipated horror/thriller books of the year. I was so excited. I was gonna save this one for Halloween, but my library hold came in, and I also managed to get the Libby copy, so I was like, it's the perfect time to read it. And I read Burn the Negative. I gave it a 1 star. As you guys know, my favorite thriller mystery trope thing is in any book, like it's why I like Taylor Jenkins Reid's books so much. It's following like celebrities or movie sets, TV sets. I just love that stuff. I love it. I eat it up. I'm obsessed with it. So this is following our main character, who was a child star on a cult classic, cult following of this like horror movie back in the 80s or something like that. I think it's back in the 80s. I don't remember exactly the timeline. Has changed her name at this point. She's like, this is like 30 years later. She changed her name. No one knows who she is except her family. She doesn't want to be associated with the movie or child stardom, etc. at all. So she has become a horror movie writer though, or I guess it's just an entertainer writer. She gets a gig to go to LA where she used to live, and cover the reboot reimagining, what's the word, of the movie that she was in as a child. And she freaks out because weird stuff starts happening. So stuff, like, it's paranormal horror, weird stuff is happening around her, and it's unexplained things, and she's trying to figure out exactly what's going on while also trying to prove that she's innocent of the stuff that's going on around her. So it's a lot. It sounds amazing. It was horrible. I don't know, like, what else to say about this because it was so bad. It was so bad. I was talking to one of my friends at work about the ending, and she just looked at me and she was like, what kind of hot garbage are you reading at home? And I'm like, this book, I hated this. I can see why people might enjoy this, but generally, it's terrible. I mostly hated the end, which is why I can't talk about it, but it did like a little switcheroo kind of thing, and I so didn't like it. I so didn't like it. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. Not a fan. Not a fan of this one. If you want to be frustrated to no end, pick this one up. The next one that I read was for my, oh gosh, I don't know what number it was. Number 4, Wheel of No Appeal. That's out. Go check that out. I ended up reading The Deck of Omens. That video took me forever to read because I read, what is it? The Devouring Grey. I loved. And then I was like, I'm going to read the second one for this Wheel of No Appeal just to finish the duology off. And then my medical stuff hit. And I was like, oh no. So I didn't read for like 2 months, and I kept putting this off because I wasn't in the mood to read it. And then I was finally this month, I was like, okay, I'm feeling better. We gotta finish this. This is like a 4-month video. So finally picked this up. It was horrible. I'm getting over like the horrible ones over first. I ended up giving this one a 2-star, which is insane considering I gave the first one a 4.25, which I'm now downgrading to a 4 because of how bad the ending was. So this is following the first book. I can't really talk about it, but the first book is following a group of people who are founders of this town, and they have like, each family has their own special power, and they have to work together to basically keep away this beast, this monster thing that's trying to like kill the town, whatever. So it's got Mystic Falls vibes, like Vampire Diaries vibes, that town vibe. It's got Twilight vibes. This is a very good duology to read in the fall. But I can't even say that because I gave this a 2-star. I just didn't like how this one ended. This one was number 1, it was far too long. It's like double the first book. All the characters just like regressed. They absolutely regressed. Things just like went sideways. Half of the book was focused on stuff we already dealt with in the first book. It was just reiterating a bunch of things that didn't make any sense to reiterate. And it was just bad. It was bad. And the problem is, I was worried about this because this is the author who wrote with Amanda Foody, who also has an issue with writing endings of series and books, who wrote the, what is it, All This Villain series. And the first book I gave a 5-star, and the second book I DNF'd. So apparently this writing duo / these just 2 authors separately, I just don't like how they write endings of books. So I feel like that means I can't read this author anymore, but I feel like I just got a book that this author wrote. I don't know. I'm just like, so not happy. So this is a big disappointment, but if you want to watch full thoughts, no spoilers, go watch that Wheel of No Appeal. It is something. The next one that I read was just another cute library book. This is a young adult romance, Fake Dates and Mooncakes. I've been really wanting to read this one. It's so cute. I give this one a 4-star. This does a fully fledged romance in 260 pages, better than some full-blown series that I've read. This is like a masterclass in writing a quick romance without it feeling forced and insta-lovey. It felt so natural, their romance. It was so cute. But we're following our main character, who is a high schooler working at his aunt's Chinese restaurant, and they sell like dumplings, and it made me hungry. This book made me really hungry. But he makes a delivery one night, and the customer's this jerk. He's a rich guy, and he's just a total jerk. And he sees the guy's friend in the background, and the next day the friend comes and says, hey, I'm sorry about what happened, pays for the meal, and it kind of goes on from there. But you're dealing with grief because our main character, his mom died the year previous, and he wants to like remember her, so he wants to do this mooncake competition, and he's gonna do it with his aunt because his aunt is taking care of him. And it's all about family, and it's so cute because you're also dealing with our other main character's family. And he's from a very rich family, and his dad just doesn't care. So he's dealing with that and all that drama while they're like starting a romance together. And it's just so cute. And it's fake dating, if you couldn't tell, fake dates and mooncakes. It's so cute. I highly recommend this one. This is such a cute, quick, young adult romance. Very happy with it. It's almost like bordering on adult. Like there's a couple moments that I was like, oh, that's adorable. So I think any type of romance reader would actually enjoy this. So I would definitely check this one out. Most recent finish, I actually finished this August 31st, which is why I always wait to film this until September or like the next month. So I recently finished Tress of the Emerald Sea. This is our book club pick for August. So I have a full-blown spoiler video where I talk about my thoughts and why I ended up where I ended up. Currently this is 3.75. Currently. The thing is, it gave me vibes like Legends and Lattes, and I didn't love Legends and Lattes. There just wasn't enough going on for me. And that's pretty much how I felt about this book, but I did like this better than Legends and Lattes. So this is part of Brandon Sanderson's secret books. I think this is number 1. I just read it second instead of reading this one first. Following Tress, and she lives on this, basically the Emerald Sea. It is, the ocean in this place is filled with spores, deadly spores that if they get wet, different things happen depending on what the spores are or where they're from. And it's really cool. This world is so cool. But this is a kind of like reimagining gender bent thing based on The Princess Bride. It's got this like really funny narrator who's also in his other books, but he's narrating the thing with this dry humor, and it's so funny because I say everything's serious, but it's the most bizarre like stuff going on. So that definitely helped the book a lot. Major problem was just the middle of the book. I felt like it wasn't going anywhere because I loved the beginning and I loved the ending, and I liked the book from like this point on in the end, and then like this point in the beginning. So there was just like a rough section in the middle that I just felt like could have went a little bit quicker or had more going on. Anyway, I was literally in the middle of telling you what the plot was about. She has to go save this boy Charlie because he got himself into a predicament because his dad is terrible. So he gets kidnapped by this sorceress and she has to go save him. And along the way she meets pirates and a talking rat, and just it's fun. I think if I were to read more of the Cosmere, which is why I'm reading Mistborn right now, I'm trying to get into Brandon Sanderson's other books, I would like this more. I also got the audiobook for this one, and the audiobook is fantastic. And I think I would have liked it better if I just listened to the whole audiobook because it really like punches the narrator in there, and that's like a really big part of the book. So yeah, 3.75 right now. This could definitely change. I do plan on rereading this with my husband because I think he would like it. So my rating could definitely change on this one. Next, I had the most absurd reading vlog if you want to check it out. Reading for 24 hours, but like on a timer. Like I didn't just read for 24 hours straight. I read on a timer and it took me 2 weeks. It was so hard, but I got through so many things. So I got through The Dragon's Promise, which is the second book in the Six Crimson Cranes series duology, and I'm so excited to finish this one. This one's been on my TBR for a while now after I finished the first one last year. Unfortunately, how I felt about this book is kind of how I felt about Elizabeth Lim's other series as well. What was it? Spin the Dawn, Unravel the Dusk. This one felt very similar to Unravel the Dusk, where a lot was happening, but nothing was happening at the same time. So this one was a really hard one to get through and rate because it felt like nothing was happening, nothing important. They were rehashing a lot of issues that the first one had, and I honestly didn't love the ending of this one. The ending was too bittersweet for me for this one, and I just wish something completely different happened. Like I honestly would like a rewrite of this book just because I think that the second book in this duology could be so much better because I loved the first one. The first one I thought was so good, and then again this one just went nowhere. I feel like nothing happened in it. So I ended up giving this one a 3.5, which is much lower than the 4.5 that I gave the first one. So that's kind of sad. Still some of the prettiest books that I own. They're, I mean, absolutely stunning. So I'm glad that I have them, and I enjoyed it. I just felt like it could have been a lot better. Another one that I read for that video was Spellbound, and I didn't love this one. Honestly, my main reason for not liking this one, I think I gave this one a 3. Yeah, I gave this one a 3. Honestly, it's probably more of a 2 to me, but the reason I'm giving it a 3 is because everything about it should be something that I like. However, this was written too young for me. This is why I don't read/rate middle grade. It's because I know it's too young for me. I have yet to really enjoy middle grade. I don't even really like the Percy Jackson series. So that's saying something. Like, that's how you know I don't really like middle grade. This felt much more middle grade than any other young adult books that I've read. So this is definitely on the younger writing side. I think this just like I was not the target audience for this book, basically. And the next one that I read for that video, this, I would highly recommend watching that one just to see the reaction to this one. I ended up giving this one a 4-star. This is the second book in Daughter of the Moon Goddess. The whole time that I read this book, it was a 2-star. That's the whole time that I was reading it. I hated it. I was so mad because there's like a big love triangle in this series and I hate love triangles. And I knew that she was going to pick the person that I didn't like. And then in the last 10 pages, the author was like, just kidding. And she picked the person that I love. And I started bawling. I was crying my eyes out because I was like, oh my gosh, they actually chose the person that I wanted them to choose. So I could not handle it. I could not handle it. So it went from like a 1.5 to a 2 to a 4, potentially higher if I reread the series. And I cannot wait for the companion novel to come out next year. I am so excited. I've been stalking NetGalley to see if they'll put it up early. I need it. I need to read it because I need to know what happens after this, because it doesn't like wrap up super pretty. Like there's definitely like, there's room at the end for a little short story collection to explain where it goes from after this book. So I'm like this could even be a whole nother book after this one. And I'm just like, I'm so excited for it. So yeah, 4-star. This was a wild ride. I did not expect the reaction that I had to this book. It was just insane. We're down to our last 2 books and another one that I'm just like, I can't, this was a rough one. This is a rough one. I read this one with my husband because we both gave The Night Swim 5 stars. And so we wanted to read Dark Corners together. And I gave it a 1-star. I really didn't like this one. It's actually funny. I originally gave it 2 stars, but I downgraded it to a 1-star because of the level of disappointment that I have for this book. So this in no way, shape, or form follows the first book, except the main character, who is the podcaster. But it's really weird because the first one, I feel like it was definitely more about the murder and the victims and the people involved in the murder, and it was so intriguing and so twisty. In this one, it was pretty much just about our podcaster and her instilling herself like into the investigation and her romance with the FBI agent that's helping her. And I'm just like, that's not what I wanted. And I didn't even like the mystery. Like my husband and I both looked at each other after the book was finished and he's like, did you actually care about the mystery? And I was like, nope. Nope, we really didn't care about it. So if you don't care about the mystery in a mystery thriller book, there's a problem. There's a problem. So I'm giving this a 1-star. I did not like this. But yeah, in this one, we're following Rachel Krall, the podcaster, and she gets called by the FBI to come help on a case. She meets with a supposed serial killer in jail, trying to figure out about this girl who just went missing, who had just met with him previously, and her name was brought up in their conversation. And it kind of drags her into it from there, and she ends up having to go to like an influencer conference and all this type of stuff. And it was just so about her and not about what was like actually going on, that it was just not enjoyable. It was more of a drama than anything. And actually the first book and the last one we're talking about is the book that I read for our book club in July, but I ended up reading it the first week of August. I read The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I had such high hopes for this one because it's Riley Sager. I tend to love every Riley Sager, even the ones that other people don't like. This is the thing. When I talk about my wrap up, things change. I originally gave this, I think, a 4. I'm giving it a 3.5. The more I sit on this one, the more I'm not a fan of this one. So this one I'm going to give a 3.5. This one was just kind of boring. I didn't love it. I think that stressed me out. I think this book was just like, it was just not what I was expecting, especially after hearing everyone go like, oh, Riley Sager's back. This is so good. And I'm reading it and I'm just like, really? This is... I feel like this is a really good introductory book to Riley Sager, potentially. I feel like this is just so bland compared to a lot of the stuff he's been writing lately. This is following our main character who's like a health nurse, and she gets assigned to this woman who lives in a mansion who turns out she was the suspect, and kind of basically everyone says she killed her family, but you don't actually know, and they start having a relationship where we start slowly figuring out what actually happened the night of the murders. So yeah, honestly, the twist is what I didn't like about this one. I thought the rest of it was okay. There's definitely some interesting parts in it, some creepy parts in it, but the ending was just not very good. Again, the ending was just, yeah, it just didn't make a lot of sense in my opinion, but I still enjoyed it for the most part, but it just wasn't what I was expecting from a book that everybody said they really liked. So anyway, that is all the books that I read in August. Now, anyway, last thing that I want to talk about is the magical readathon, and I definitely didn't get through all of them. Again, I don't push myself that hard for magical readathon, but I believe, yeah, I was doing demonology, so I needed to read a book with Earth in the title. That didn't happen, but I will be reading one in September. I'm working on a very secret video that's actually a lot of fun. So I will be reading a book for that. And I had to get a Q in Spells and Incantations. I needed to read the manga or a comic, and that was the DNF, so that doesn't count either. Then black cover or fire on the cover, Dark Corners had a black cover, so I'm counting that one. Needed an O in Conjuration, which is court or royal book. I read Heart of the Sun Warrior, lots of court intrigue and stuff going on in that. I needed a D in Demonology. I didn't read something I saw on Instagram first. I did read Magical Creature book, The Dragon's Promise. You have dragons in that. And then Poll and Decide. I counted the only one left because technically that was a poll. So I counted that even though it was a book club poll, but I still think that counts. So I only missed 1, 2, 3 out of all of them. That's actually not that bad. So I just need to finish that up this coming month. I feel like I should be able to. So pretty excited about that. So that was kind of my whole wrap up. I feel like August was a really good month, even though I didn't have any 5 stars. I read a lot, I got through a lot, and I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future content, including that future TBR video. Make sure you comment down below about the books that you read this month. If you read any of the same ones that I read, what you guys liked, if you gave anything 5 stars, if you gave anything 1 stars, what you think about it, if you want to read any of these books, or if you have any recommendations of new books that you guys read. And make sure you like the video if you enjoyed the content, and thank you so much for being here. I had such a good reading month in August. I'm just excited about it, and hopefully we bring this energy over to September. And anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.